Are we sending the Congo the message that Black lives only matter if they're American? Are we as Africans sending the Congo the message that Palestinian lives matter more than Congolese lives?
And let's talk about it, because it's always free Palestine, but it's also free Congo, free Haiti, free Sudan, free anybody under oppressive rule. I want to talk about Congo right now, though.
This is Nuance with Nikki, the nitty gritty. Even if it's shitty, I do apologize if there's a noise outside. There's a braai happening at my house. But for all the annoyance that I've spoken about with Americans, of course, I don't think that criticism of America is terrorism. I've been unfriended for standing up for the United States before, so go ahead. This is Nuance with Nikki, and nuance is in short supply, and I've got to give credit where credit is due. The one thing I think that America, or some Americans, are doing right, that a lot of us here in Africa aren't doing right, is that there actually are those Americans that are looking for their personal culpability in what's happening in the DRC, the Democratic Republic of Congo.
Have you heard about what's happening in the Democratic Republic of the Congo?
Displacement of thousands of Congolese adults and children. The UN Refugee Agency states that the DRC is the most complex and long-standing humanitarian crisis in Africa. And
this is the bottom of the supply chain of your iPhone, of your Tesla, of your Samsung. I mean, I'm just naming those companies. Right. It's all of them, right? And that's the truth that needs to get out there. That's the truth people need to understand. There's these fictions told at the top of the chain about what conditions are like at the bottom. And truth seekers have to go find that truth and enlighten civilization so that people get agitated about it.
Whatever I can do to spread the word and share resources and just get people talking about it, that's what I want to do.
There's something wrong. There's something wrong with us in terms of the way we think about Africa.
Okay, so yes, in this video, which, you know, the conflict in Congo, you know, this is the version that has the French writing underneath, but there is another version that's just purely English. They talk a lot about the US culpability, but actually I think that part of this is because the US is obviously normally the naughty boy when it comes to wars, and so their communities and their people are so accustomed to looking for, hey, what's our responsibility? Okay, so that is one of the slices, and I'm not going to sit here and pretend the whole US is going crazy over this, right? But I am obviously seeing, at least from my perspective, more American voices than African voices. I am seeing quite a bit of South African voices speaking up about this. Okay, by quite a bit, I'm seeing 3, myself and 2 others so far. But other than that, it's Congolese voices and American voices that I'm hearing the most of. Personally, that's my perception. That's not an accurate description necessarily, but I do hear British and American voices a lot. But the Americans who do care seem to care deeply and seem to really be trying to find out what's going on. They seem to be scratching below the surface. Watch my page so you can see how I came to that conclusion. Of course, I'm an African, so I'm going to reassess my assumption about that.
Okay, guys, so as promised, I tested my assumption, and here we go. These are images from the Cape Town Solidarity March Against Genocide in the Democratic Republic of Congo, organized by the Congolese Civil Society of South Africa. You can find their page on Facebook. Congolese national South Africans and comrades standing in solidarity gathered in Cape Town to march to Parliament, demonstrating against the decades of violence and exploitation and human rights abuses in Congo. Activists spoke out against tech multinationals benefiting from child labor, extraction of cobalt, and the never-ending bloodshed, corrupt politicians, and complicity of other African states in maintaining the imperialistic status quo of the DRC. Okay, so let's look at some of these images. So I'm not the only one talking about it, but I do want you to see the rest of my video after I show you these images where, I had my assumptions, right? But of course, I've got to be careful about whataboutism. Okay, so yes, here in Cape Town, there are people standing up for the Congo, and they're well aware of what's happening, calling out our own government. And so this is Cape Town. I hope I can find some stuff on Joburg, because as an economic hub, and a very well-established economic hub, we have the responsibility, first and foremost as Joburgers, to speak out, like we normally do. So, yeah.
But I think the aim of what I'm trying to do is to show that we could also do better. I hope you're hearing the heart of what I'm saying. Please don't take it out of context, hey? So we're going to see an example of what I'm talking about. This video from 12 years ago, where the Americans are taking accountability for what their government is doing. But listen to what this guy says first. Just listen to it and stay for the whole thing before you judge what I'm saying, okay?
In this case, you had Rwanda and Uganda invading their neighbor, plundering it of its natural resource wealth, and suffering no sanctions at the United Nations Security Council. And you have to ask why, and it's because they had the very strong support and backing of the United States, United Kingdom, and other governments.
So in that case, the American is taking accountability, and he's saying, look, these people have the backing of the United States and other governments. But he mentioned his country first. He mentioned the UK and the USA, but he mentioned his country. Do you get what I'm saying? He mentioned their culpability. What about the 9 African nations surrounding the Congo that were involved, I think, in the Second Congo War? What about our culpability? Money here in Johannesburg that these multinationals and their head offices have here? We also need to be questioning them, guys. I can't do this alone. As I'm learning, I'm putting the word out there, nah? It's nice to send soldiers there and to let our soldiers lose their lives, apparently. While, you see what I'm saying? As I said in my other video, you buy a cell phone, your taxes are going to send the soldiers there, while the profits of that same cell phone are creating the problem in the first place. Make it make sense. Doesn't make sense, man. Ish. So, you will see later on in this video as you watch it that they'll talk about US involvement. They're trying to be very nuanced about it as well. In the whole thing, they're questioning their own government, and this is needed across 54 countries in Africa. I mean, yeah, all of us. We need to be questioning our government's culpability, because what's happening in Congo couldn't happen without us, especially Congo's neighbors. I'm looking at you, Rwanda, and I'm looking at you, Uganda. I'm looking at you, Burundi. But I'm also looking at you, South Africa, because that's who I have to call out first. Okay? If you hate what I've said, we've got to sweep around our own front door before we sweep around others. If none of what I've said is staying with you guys, this isn't like Israel-Palestine, where there is one little puppet that is the so-called obvious bad guy. Okay? The bad guy is in every nation. Any nation that has a flag, any nation that has an anthem, any nation that has borders, any nation on the planet Earth. So, Venus, you're free. You're fine. You're innocent. Mars, you're doing great. Jupiter, you're fine. Just Earth. Okay? Each one of us has to know who these companies are, because they live in lots of different countries, and each one of us needs to know what our governments are involved in. Let's listen to what Cyril can say.
Within the parameters of maintaining the current order.
This has serious implications in terms of what people don't talk about, U.S. foreign policy. That's where the problem lies. It has something to do with the United States and Great Britain supporting strong men in Africa rather than supporting the people.
Now, it's easy to point fingers and to pin the blame of these problems on others.
Okay, that's a very interesting speech, and this documentary has a very interesting take. You know what? I'm going to go ahead and leave you to make your own opinions. I'm sorry if this was not the most perfect video. I really tried to come with humanity, and this was very difficult. It was very difficult to talk about what the US is doing better than us. I know we pride ourselves on our humanity in Africa, but I got to sweep around our front door before we sweep around anybody else's. We said, you come for one of us, you come for all of us. And we are the ones turning our backs. So guys, people of justice across this continent, remember, It's on their doorstep. If you have a mine in your country and the next mineral is the mineral in yours, what precedent are we setting? The majority of us stood in solidarity. Many of us marched for Black Lives Matter. Are we sending the Congo the message that Black lives only matter if they're American? Are we as Africans sending the Congo the message that Palestinian lives matter more than Congolese lives? Okay, these are some difficult questions. Let's go think about them. I know this wasn't easy. I know this isn't our fault. We've been educated to have tunnel vision, and we've got to do the work to let go of our own Afrophobia before we sweep around everybody else's door. Okay, our own mental blocks and our own tunnel vision. Okay, I'm not coming in blame. I'm coming in self-reflection. I'm not hating, I'm educating. This has been Nuance with Nikki, the nitty-gritty, even if it's shitty. Thank you for going down into the valley of the shadow of bullshit with me today. It was hard. I love you guys. Keep strong and hashtag remember Congo. Thank you so much for joining. Like, subscribe, so you can be notified of more of what's going on as I learn.